to continue with the lashing, we turned on a couple more lights because it's getting kind of dark. So I pull this tight. Then I'm going to take this around and I'm going to look and see if the inside is cut off too long. If it was, I could trim it off now, but it's just about right. It's real long again, and so I'm going to show you the importance of taking it one past so that you always have a starter. And I'm also going to introduce a tool that I use in my classes, and this is called a lash buddy. It's not imperative that you have this tool. I will tell you I've had some people try to replicate this without much luck, but if you have a piece of metal that you can try to bend, you can do that. I buy this from a basketry supply place. If you're interested in purchasing one, they will be for sale on my website like everything else. But here is how you can do this much easier. So I'm going to put this in here right underneath both of those rims. I'm just going to push it in. And then I'm going to use a second one, and I'm going to push it in as well.
Into the next position?
Into the, in between every spoke, okay. You have this place. Great question, Edie. So you make sure that that's not twisted, and then you can use this as a guide. I'm sorry, I flipped the basket really quickly. I use this as a guide, and then it just glides. But I don't want to stop yet. I want to take this and start it through that one, because, and that's right where an overlap was here, so I want to make sure that that's tight. Because now I can just pull this, and I can do it very easily. You didn't hear that squeaking like you do on the bare reed on the bare reed. You've got this metal piece.
That is an amazing tool.
I'm telling you, it's great. I teach a lot of kids, and with kids it's much harder. I'm going to just keep doing this because I showed you the detail of what I'm doing. So you can just watch. Then I'm taking this out, and you see me moving the clothespins around. Do not poke this through that last row underneath, because then you'll have part of it sticking down here. So you must make sure that you're in between those two.
I'm just going to let you guys know that this part of basket making, I remember from 20 years ago, is truly not one of my favorite parts. It's kind of tedious. You have to be extremely careful not to, I kind of try to get in a hurry and wouldn't take my time in trying to get either my flat tip tool or this handy dandy tool, and I kind of try to jerk it in there, and it's just not pretty when you do that. I've broken some reed doing that by not being patient. But to get through this part, you just have to remind yourself you're almost to the end of the basket, and so just kind of have to take the bad with the good. Other people might really enjoy this. I don't remember that tool, Cheryl, but I'm definitely going to get one.
Well, we only started seeing these at some of our conventions. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't remember them being around.
No. They definitely didn't make them when you were making baskets. I would say I've only been using these for maybe 6 years. Now, maybe someone who's watching who is an experienced basket maker would remember, and I don't know who makes them, so I can't ask them. But see how nice that is, and how easily it glides. So I'm going to say that this time when you make a basket, you might not hate this as
Yeah,
much.
I'm thinking that this might be so much better than what I remember.
Oops, I picked up the wrong tool. I picked up my flat tip. Well, you know, I did have, years ago, I had someone rename, instead of lacing or lashing, she called it thrashing. Yeah, she called it thrashing, and she obviously did not like it either.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this, though. When you do lash the rim on, then what does that mean?
That means you are almost done. Correct?
I wouldn't say I'm almost done. I'd say I'm done. I would say I'm done. But I don't say that. I said I would, except that a woman who used to help me teach classes at my shop, she was an English teacher. And anytime students, I'm talking adult students, they would say, I'm done. And she would say, cakes and cookies get done. People finish. So while I am somewhat of a grammar, try to be a perfectionist with my grammar, she really was. And I heard her tell our students enough times that, my ring's getting caught, that people finish. Cakes and cookies get done. Always makes me hungry for a piece of cake.
Yeah, that does kind of sound good right now.
Doesn't it? So, I am coming close to the end. And I've gone through every one. So this is the last one. And I am going to come through here one more time, because you can't stop there. And this is where having your tool comes in handy, because you can put it in here and kind of wiggle that around so that you can see that hole. And I'm going to pull it tight. Now, if you can't get it pulled really, really tight as you're doing it, you can go back and you can re-tighten it. But you need to spray it with water first, because this has dried and you can break these very easily. When we end the rim, or the lashing, take that clothespin off, my demo. You remember how I showed you the starter? And that's right there. That little end is poking right through there. I'm going to show you with the demo right now what I'm going to do with this, and then I will actually do this one. Now, I've had that clothespin for a little bit, so I'm going to re-wet that.
Cheryl, can you do me a favor and move the towel? That way we have that dark contrast. There we go.
Okay. So we're going to pretend like we're at the end right here. Here's the seagrass. I'm going to trim that off. And you're going to be using your tool. And this time you're going to start it so that it's on this side of the rim. So you're doing just the opposite of what you did before. But don't come up straight like that so the seagrass is on that side. You're going to go so the seagrass is on that side. And then that's going to go up. And this is probably, see, since I'm working with that short piece, a little harder to see. Now, I'm just going to pull this seagrass back so that hopefully you can see. But even better, just rip that tape off, and then you can see. The blue's not quite as long, but hooks over it again like a candy cane. Can you see that? On the opposite side. And then you would pull that down, and then the seagrass goes back on top. Now when I actually do it on the basket, you'll see how this piece is going to be tucked. So I am going to just spritz this a little bit, since it's going to have a little more bending action than this did. This is going up on this side, inside of the rim, and then I'm just using this to feel around, and there it goes. So when I did that, I could feel this loosen a little bit, so I'm just going to pull it tight. If you don't do that, the rim is kind of loose, and then the top of the rim isn't as pretty as it should be. Then I'm going to follow that tool with that piece. See if I can turn that a little bit. So this is tight. I'm pulling on this. It's on this side. Now I'm going to put the tool up against the inside. Is that in a good spot? And then I'm going to extend my tool down through that row. Okay, so that row is kind of like the outside one was, where I tucked the other end. So then I'm going to turn it. So I put it in there. I actually have the end of it right about here. I don't know if you can see how I turned it, and it kind of popped out. I usually do this with my right hand. This is a little awkward to try to do for the camera. Then, see my candy cane here? And then I'm going to pull. Now, when I get it to loop about like that, I want it to be really nice and tight, but I don't want it to break, for one thing. So I'm using my tool just like this, and then I'm going to pull down and just kind of wiggle that tool down until it's released. So then we have this on the inside. And then again, with your nice, sharp, pointy tip shears, we snip that off. So then you cannot see where the lashing started, nor can you see where it ends. After I lash the rim on, I look at it and I say, well, you know what? That's probably not going to fit a square basket too well. So I want to do a little tweaking and shaping. So I see over here where my seagrass, I've pushed it down a little too far there. So I'm just going to kind of dig in there with my tool and just bring it up. And then just level it off. Sometimes when I pull the lashing really, really tight, it kind of disappears a little bit. Then the final thing that I'm going to do is go back here and, well, it's not the final thing, final little tweaking. I want to cut that at, if you remember when I marked that with a pencil, when I started putting it on in the rim lesson, it was a guesstimate of the angle. So I can either cut it like right there to match, or I can just use my fingernails and I can just pull that over a little bit. I tend to like to just pull it over rather than try to cut it, because sometimes I cut it too short. So you can just move it around. So now to make this square basket that started, and now it's a little more rounded, square it up, I just take my hands like this, and you want your basket to be damp. So if you haven't done this and it dries out, you'll want to just spritz it everywhere. And then I just cradle it. I just give it a squeeze there. See, I can move that around and it does not crack the corners. So then I'll turn it to the other side. Now we have one that's shaped like a mailbox. So you could make yourself a mailbox if you wanted to put a lid on this. Okay, all kinds of ideas for baskets. Then I'm just going to cradle it this way and kind of shape it up. Now I'm going to go to the other sides and make sure that I have touched all four sides. And there we have our basket. And this is the final lesson in how to make this basket, but we do have one more segment where Edie and I are going to talk about how you can get the supplies for the basket and some other things. So happy basket making!